Yeah, I mean, I could not care any less about being favored or not being the favorite. We all started even par. I think at times this year I may have gotten overly frustrated. I think it's just part of the game. I think part of the game is controlling your emotions, is controlling your mind. And I've definitely gotten better at that over the years.
The same organization that once warned Scheffler for slow play seemed unable to manage the growing tension from the stands. It raised one serious question that echoed far beyond Bethpage. Who is truly protecting the spirit of the game? If the world's #1 player, a man known for humility and composure, has to personally step in to calm things down, then something deep within the system clearly needs to change. As the controversy settled into the headlines, golf's image took a major hit. Sports outlets, talk shows, and social media feeds lit up with debates about who was to blame, the fans, the PGA, or the players themselves. Everyone had an opinion, but one thing was certain. The sport was at a crossroads. Sponsors quietly began expressing concern, worried that golf's refined reputation was being replaced by chaos and division. Scottie Scheffler stayed mostly silent publicly, but his actions spoke louder than any interview could. Behind the scenes, insiders said he'd been in private talks with PGA officials, urging them to rethink how fan conduct was handled at major events. He didn't want stricter punishment. He wanted accountability and respect. It was a move that showed leadership, even if it put him at odds with the establishment. The PGA, meanwhile, scrambled to manage the fallout. Press statements promised reviews and improvements, but few fans were convinced. Many saw it as another example of the organization reacting late instead of leading early. And through it all, Scheffler became a quiet symbol of integrity, a player standing for something bigger than a trophy. By early 2026, the tension hadn't faded, it had evolved. Rumors began swirling that several top players were questioning their participation in future PGA run events, citing concerns about safety and fan behavior. The whispers were impossible to ignore, and once again, Scheffler found himself in the center of it all. He was reportedly in discussions with both the PGA and player representatives, pushing for reforms to protect competitors on and off the course. His stance wasn't about comfort, it was about fairness. Respect has to be a standard, not an option. One source quoted him as saying, at the same time, Live Golf continued to make noise from the sidelines, capitalizing on the PGA's internal struggles. Their executives made subtle jabs, hinting that their tournaments were more controlled and more professional. That comparison didn't sit well with PGA loyalists who accused Live of exploiting a cultural moment for clout. The divide between the two leagues only deepened, and golf's global image grew more uncertain. Then came the shocker. Reports surfaced that Scheffler had been approached privately by several international promoters, inviting him to participate in a new neutral tournament series designed to bring golf back together. The idea was simple yet daring, a global event without political tension or league rivalry, where players competed purely for the sport. Fans were intrigued and social media exploded with speculation. Would Scheffler, the face of calm and composure, make a bold move that could reshape the sport? Insiders said he didn't dismiss the idea outright. He listened, but as one close source said, Scottie's loyalty runs deep. If he ever walks away, it won't be without a reason. The PGA, sensing pressure, suddenly became very protected. Quiet discussions about tightening contracts and appearance rules leaked online, fueling even more public suspicion. What started as a call for respect had now turned into a full-blown power struggle between ideals and institutions. Meanwhile, fans began taking side. Some backed Scheffler's quiet courage, while others argued that he was overreacting to an emotional moment. But what most people missed was how personal it had become. Those who knew Scheffler said that moment at Bethpage still haunted him. He wasn't just trying to fix golf, he was trying to restore its soul. Golf legends like Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player chimed in, urging calm and perspective. Nicklaus praised Scheffler's composure, calling him a reminder of what golf should look like. But even those words couldn't erase the growing cracks within the sport. Every headline seemed to widen the divide. The PGA finally announced a fan conduct reform plan, promising tighter crowd control, new event marshals, and even potential bans for aggressive spectator. It was a step in the right direction. But for many, it felt like too little too late. As 2026 unfolded, the atmosphere in professional golf remained tense. Some events went smoothly, but others showed that the wounds hadn't fully healed. Fans still brought fiery energy, but security was visibly tighter, and players appeared more guarded than before. Scheffler kept winning. His talent never dipped. Yet every victory felt shadowed by the memory of Beth Page. Interviews grew more serious with questions about leadership, culture, and the future of golf. It's not just about who wins anymore. One commentator said it's about who the game belongs to. Behind the scenes, PGA executives worked overtime to rebuild relationship. They launched community programs, fan education campaigns, and public partnerships promoting sportsmanship. But the question remained, had the organization truly learned from the chaos, or were they simply patching cracks over deeper fracture? By the end of 2026, the sport was standing at a turning point. Scottie Scheffler's courage had sparked a much-needed conversation, not just about fans, but about responsibility, unity, and leadership. He had never asked to be the face of reform, but through his actions, he became exactly that. When he walked onto the course at Augusta that spring, the cheers were respectful, the crowd calmer. It was as if the golf world had finally remembered what it stood for: class, respect, and fair play. The PGA wanted the game to look polished and organized, keeping the pace smooth and professional. But while they focused on timing and order, something much bigger was brewing beyond the fairways. In the stands, emotions were running wild, and the energy was about to boil over at the Ryder Cup. Beth Page Black in New York had always been known as one of golf's most intense stages, famous for its loud, passionate crowds. And this time, the atmosphere was set to reach a whole new level. During the heated Ardor Cup, the European team, especially Rory Moy, became the focus of constant heckling from the crowd. The tension reached a point where it stopped feeling like just part of the competition and became the story everyone was talking about. Right in the center of the storm stood Scottie Scheffler, a player who had already faced that same kind of hostility earlier in the season. But this time, watching his rival go through it, he stepped up and tried to calm down the very fans who were supposed to be cheering for him. Then came the moment that truly defined the controversy. And it didn't come from Scheffler himself, but from his family. His father was seen in the crowd confronting a fan who had been shouting at Maroy, telling them to stop a rare and genuine act of respect in the middle of chaos. His mother, meanwhile, earned praise for staying calm and collected, despite the noisy scene around her. It was surreal. The world's top golfer at the absolute height of his career, having to rely on his parents to help bring order to an event run by one of golf's most powerful organizations. The PGA of America had issued warnings to the crowd, but their impact was minimal, like a soft whisper against a storm. The fact that a player's family had to intervene showed just how out of control things had become. What followed was a wave of public apologies and embarrassment that revealed how deep the problem really went. Even the event's master of ceremonies got caught up in the scandal after a clip surfaced of him encouraging some of the crowd's chants. The backlash was immediate. He stepped down from his role, a symbolic move that didn't fix the issue, but made the PGA's troubles clear. Then came a powerful voice from the sports history. Legendary golfer and two-time U.S. Ardor Cup captain Tom Watson, who went online to express his disappointment. He wrote, "I'd like to apologize for the rude and mean-spirited behavior from our American crowd at Bethpage. It was a statement that echoed through the golfing world, showing just how serious things had become." Tom Watson's words didn't stop there. He added a line that echoed through every corner of the sport. "As a former player, captain, and as an American, I am ashamed of what happened." That one word, ashamed, hung heavy in the air like a judgment from one of golf's most respected figures. It wasn't just disappoint, it was a wake-up call. U.S. team captain Keegan Bradley also admitted that the fans had gone too far, and soon after, the American players themselves offered formal apologies to their European rivals. It was a powerful gesture, but also a strange one. Athletes saying sorry for the actions of their own supporters. It showed just how fractured the connection between players and fans had become. The worst part wasn't only the yelling or the taunts, it was the breakdown of control that allowed it all to unfold. The game's proud traditions, its sense of respect and honor seemed to have slipped away right in front of everyone's eyes. As the dust settled and Europe celebrated its victory, the golf world was left wondering what this all truly meant for the future of the sport. Scottie Scheffler, by standing up for fairness and refusing to stay silent, had unintentionally held up a mirror to the entire game, and the reflection wasn't pretty. This moment wasn't just about good manners or fan behavior. It was about leadership, about what golf wanted to stand for moving forward. For years, the PGA Tour had been wrestling with its identity. First during its rivalry with Libby Golf, and now with a culture clash inside its own ranks. Scottie Scheffler, the world's #1 golfer, stood on the flawless greens of Bethpage Black. But his focus wasn't on his next swing. Instead, he found himself managing a restless crowd that completely lost control. The 2025 Ardor Cup was meant to be a grand celebration of golf's finest talents, a true clash between continents filled with precision and pride. Yet somehow, the moment turned uneasy and intense as American fans began shouting harsh words toward European star Rory McIlroy. Scheffler, known for his calm personality and quiet dominance on the PGA Tour, did something few expected. He turned to his own supporters and motioned for them to stop, asking them to show respect. That simple act became bigger than just sportsmanship. It exposed a deeper tension running through professional golf. This wasn't only about a few loud voices in the crowd, it reflected a larger culture that had been building for years, one that the system seemed unable to fully keep in check. The PGA had its own quiet ways of guiding players, often behind the scenes. But as Scheffler stood there facing the crowd, it was clear that those methods weren't enough anymore. The energy around the sport had shifted and emotions were starting to spill over. This moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was the result of a long, slow buildup. All season, Scheffler had been unstoppable on the course, but increasingly disconnected from the world around him. Earlier in 2025, he triumphed at Royal Portrush, capturing the Open Championship in Northern Ireland, a huge win on foreign soil. But instead of full celebration, the victory came with tension as local fans fiercely supported their hometown icon, Rory McIlroy, leaving Scheffler to face a chorus of cold stars and sharp words as he lifted the trophy. Scottie Scheffler later admitted that some of the remarks he heard went too far, explaining with his usual calm tone that people have a tendency to say things that are just plain unnecessary. While leading the tournament, he overheard several harsh comments from the crowd. Oh, he insisted it didn't shake his focus. It clearly left a lasting impression. It gave him a glimpse into how divided the sport was becoming, where cheering for one favorite often meant putting down another. As always, the unspoken rule was that players had to take it in stride, stay focused, and let their clubs do the talking. But Scheffler didn't forget. He tucked that experience away, a quiet reminder of how quickly passion in sports could cross the line. Soon after came the BMW Championship at Caves Valley, another impressive win in what